It is Libby with Fearlessness. What is fearlessness? It's that underlying grit that empowers you to forge ahead, even when hope seems distant. It's the courage to walk through those fires of hell, knowing that we're going to come out not just stronger on the other side, but better. Stay tuned and learn how to get fearlessness. I'm your host, Libby DeLucien, and I want to welcome everybody to the show, to this episode. And we have a great guest today. Laura, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. My name is Laura Natoli. I co-own a cleaning business on Long Island in New York with my best friend since birth. And we've been in business for about a little over 6 years at this point, and it's been just such a journey. I never thought that I would be a business owner. If you told 5-year-old me that I'd own a business one day, I would say you were crazy. So it's definitely been a journey and an experience, but I'm really loving it.
Awesome. So tell me a little bit about, I just interviewed Holly last week. So you guys could catch that episode. That's her business partner. But I want to learn more about how you said that you've been best friends from birth. Is that right? Have you really known each other that long?
Yep. So when I say best friends since birth, I mean literally crawling around the floor in diapers before we were even 1 year old. It's so funny. And I really do think it's a fate situation because our parents knew each other and were friends in Brooklyn. And they both lived in Brooklyn, New York. And our brothers went to elementary school together. And our parents became friends. A lot of the moms were very cliquey, so they kind of flocked to each other. And we would have play dates literally as 6-month-year-olds, crawling around the floor. And my parents moved out to Long Island when I was about 1 year old. And 2 years later, her parents bought a house 3 blocks away by coincidence.
That's cool. Yeah. So what made have you owned a business before owning this business with your best friend?
No, I have never owned a business before. I actually studied acting in college and she studied journalism. So it's definitely not something I ever thought I'd be doing.
So what made you guys partner?
So it was
what made you guys want to partner first? And then we'll talk about why you chose the business you chose.
That's a great question. I feel like we've always known that we wanted to do something together. Even when we were, say, around 10 years old, we would have clubs and she would be the owner and I would be the president. And we've always, wanted to work together in some aspect, but we had different passions. And she actually was the one that said, let's start a cleaning business. And I was very reluctant. I said, I don't want to be cleaning houses for the rest of my life, because at that point, I didn't even know that mop-free was something that could be possible. So I was very reluctant for a couple of years. And then one day I said, you know what, let's just do it. And it started off as a little side hustle to earn extra money. And one thing spiraled into another, and we ended up blowing up due to word of mouth. And it kind of just happened to us, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's how a lot of times you stumble upon something that you're good or great at or you enjoy, and it's purely by accident or chance. And then the passion develops from there, from the mastery. The more you learn, the more you develop the passion, and the more you want to master it. And it's just this evolving cycle. How long did you guys clean in the field together?
Oh my goodness. We were cleaning in the field together up until, I would say we weren't fully mop free until about 6 months ago. So we were cleaning for almost the full first 6 years.
And for our listeners who don't know what mop free is Debbie Sardone, she owns Debbie Sardone, she's known as the mop free millionaire. So she's a coach and a consultant, and her mission is to get owner cleaners mop free. So we use the term mop free. For maybe other industries or cleaning industries that aren't familiar yet with that term, but that's ultimately the goal, that we all want to be mop free, because we start, many of us, as owner operators, and then we go from there. What would you say is the biggest challenge owning a business with your best friend?
Oh, that's another good one.
And she could listen.
I know, she actually is in the other room and she said she was going to eavesdrop, so I better be careful with my words. Honestly, we're really blessed in that Holly and I have the same core values deep down, and we want the same things and have the same goals in mind for the business and for life in general. So we're very lucky that we don't butt heads often. And when we do, we talk through them, we vocalize those concerns. But I would say the main challenge for us was establishing role clarity, because for the longest time, we did not have our roles established. And I don't think it was until I think last April was when we really sat down and say, okay, you're going to do the marketing and the scheduling, and I'm going to do the sales and the hiring. And that has really helped us a lot, because I feel like not knowing who takes ownership of each role has really been the hardest part for us.
Yeah, because if everyone's in charge, no one's in charge.
Yeah, and a lot of things get left behind and not done.
And so if you're struggling with your office structure, I mean, just had a coaching call the other day with someone who's like overwhelmed. And I said, let's talk through your accountability chart or org chart, or, whatever you want to call it. People call it different things. They are kind of different, but similar. And he's like, I don't have one. And I said, well, that's a great place to start, is role clarity. The lack of role clarity could be causing chaos, miscommunication, misalignment, dropped balls, like things falling through the cracks. So, I love that. So what was the biggest challenge? What would you say is the biggest reward about having a business with your best friend?
Oh, I could go on for days. Honestly, we're so lucky. And I got to hand it to the people that go into business with their spouse. I feel like that is so challenging, and I could never do that. Whereas so many people say they could never go into business with a best friend. But I feel like just getting to be with each other every day and spend time with each other is honestly the best reward that I have for myself. Because if you would have told me at 10 years old that I would have owned a business, I would have said you're crazy. But if you said, oh, you get to work with Holly every single day, I would have been so ecstatic. So just getting to spend that quality time with her and knowing she always has my back in any situation is the biggest reward, in my opinion.
That's awesome. I love that. I feel the same way about working with my husband every day. It's so many couples, whether you're a spouse or a partner or just a business partnership, struggle when it comes to working with a partner or spouse. And for me, it's with my first marriage, it was a immense struggle. I talked about that in, oh no, it wasn't this podcast. I was a guest on another podcast. But with my current husband, it's been nothing but a reward, but I entered it from a place of caution because I knew how it was before. I had experienced the chaos and the horror of working with a spouse when it didn't work, or a partner. And so I made sure that when I did it this time, I did it differently, and I did it more transparently, with a higher level of communication, and with role clarity.
Mm-hmm. I feel like that's the biggest thing.
It is huge. And so many couples that go into business with each other, whether, like, again, best friends or partners, marriage, spouses, I don't think there's any difference in how you approach it and the level of expectations that are needed and how organized things need to be. It's all the exact same. It's just understanding that before you go in. I told somebody the other day, she had family come work for her, and I told her she needs to stop hiring family because they're taking advantage of her. Like, the books were off and these things. And then she had another family member that wanted to come work for her. And I said, unless you can hold your family member accountable, unless you can have a difficult conversation with them, unless you can fire them, don't hire your family member or your friends.
Yeah, that's good advice.
Because that's when you start to get apathy for your business, and you start to hate your business, and it gets out of control and turns into something that you don't even know what it is anymore. And it's gotten just a little bit out of hand. So love your feedback on that. I'm totally in line. So let's talk about, like, role clarity and, feeling like overwhelmed or challenged. What's the best piece of advice that you could give, that struggling entrepreneur when they're feeling overwhelmed? What do you do?
I take some time for myself and play some video games and relax and decompress when I'm feeling overwhelmed, to be honest. But I feel like the best piece of advice would be to take time for self-care. And that's going to look really different for a lot of people. Like I said, for me, it's sitting down and playing some video games. For some people, it's going to get a pedicure or going to the nail salon or the hair salon, Yeah,
I don't go to the nail salon.
Yeah, as you can see.
I do other things.
What would you say your self-care is? Like, what do you do for self-care?
So I have a morning routine that I really try to stick with, and I try to do it every morning. So I have a morning date with my husband. We're on date like number 270 something. I can't remember.
Wow.
I count in my calendar. And so that is part of my self-care. So a lot of people think self-care is like, oh, I have to put myself first, or I have to go shopping, or that's selfish. But self-care, if you really start to understand it and learn it, it's whatever you need.
Hello, I'm Ruth Thomas, host of Comp and Coffee, where we break down what's next in the world of compensation management. From pay transparency to performance alignment, we explore how businesses are rethinking compensation to drive impact, equity, and growth. So if you're shaping the future of pay at your organization, grab a cup and tune in. Listen on the Work Defined Podcast Network.
As a person, business owner, female, woman, mother, entrepreneur, you name it, what you need to feel balanced in your life. I wouldn't say what you need to feel control, because we'll never have control over everything. So just let's not think that we can control it, but what we need to feel balanced. And I learned this actually a while ago from in therapy. I was in therapy, and if you're an adult and you haven't been to therapy, I really highly recommend every adult should go through therapy, whether you have something wrong with you or not, so that you can talk about things, because we all have issues. And the therapist said to me, I have to put myself first. And I kind of thought, I was like, wow, that's really selfish. But the first thing that went to mind was like, the women that you see out like shopping and getting their hair done every week. But that was just my misconception of reality. And so I started to learn to put myself first. And it was, what are the things I needed to do to be grounded, to be a great mom, to be a great wife, to be a great sister or daughter to my parents. So mine change all the time. But again, I do like a morning date with my husband every morning, simple cup of coffee. I think it's like 30 or 45 minutes we set aside for each other. We typically walk, but this morning it was raining. So we went in the hot tub and we planned our summer vacation. So there's that. And then I also make time to exercise every morning and make time for either yoga or some light meditation, so I can just get my head straight. And so many people try, and it is hard to do meditation. And I will say I've not mastered it, but I've been doing it for like 10 years. And, I'm just getting to where I can clear my mind. So it takes practice. Doing those things, exercising, trying to make a little time for either reading or learning, just light reading or learning, are those things that I need. So I don't even typically start working until about 10 a.m. because I try to get all these things done. But when I'm ready to work, because I took the self-care of what I needed to feel balanced and kind of head cleared, I can work at a very high rate or high capacity when I start at 10. And so it does sound selfish, like, oh, I don't start working till 10. But when I also work, sometimes I work later, sometimes I stop at 3, sometimes I work till midnight. You don't know. But when I get those things done, it is a great way for me to start the day with me in control of myself.
Yeah. And that's probably why you're so efficient and you are so good at getting things done, because you took that time in the morning to grow and to focus on you.
Yes. And then I found the mornings were the way I could be consistent, because I have children, we have businesses. If we put it off to the evening or the afternoon, I found that I never got it done, ever. It's just like I let excuses happen. But if I start before the day even wakes up, before the world wakes up, not the day, then I have no excuse.
Right. I gotta try that. I like that morning date idea. I've seen on Facebook the morning dates, and I'm like, I gotta try that.
Yeah. So we, it's something that I didn't get I did not create the idea, the original idea. I got it from a friend who I'm in a mastermind group with, and he just does them once in a while. I took it to the extreme. So we are on 273, date number 273. I just marked them in my calendar, so I'm a loser.
No, I think it's cute. I think it's awesome.
But they have changed so much for just my relationship with my husband. It is our time for us to have fun with each other, to brainstorm, to innovate, not even like business, just like we planned our summer trip or summer time off with when school's out. We plan like, what do we want to do, or future ideas or projects with the kids or ourselves? Because when do you get to that stuff if you don't set clear time aside to really focus on you and that person, right? It doesn't just happen, because if we keep saying, oh, we'll do it later, well, later never comes.
Yeah, it's true.
Yes. So love it. So self-care is huge. As far as kind of lessons being learned in business, first business, you're 6 years in, you've made it past that. What was that? Statistically, like 99% of businesses fail in the first year, and like some astronomical within the 5 years.
Yeah.
So you've made it to 6 years. So you're out of those humps. What would you say is like the most valuable lesson that you've learned in your 6 years?
Oof, there's so many. I could sit here and talk to you all day about the lessons I've learned and the mistakes I've made. But I feel like the biggest lesson I've learned is that it's okay to say no, whether that be to clients, to employees, to, coworkers, business partners, and also to be okay with not being liked by everyone. Because I feel like I grew up a people pleaser through and through. And when I started off this business, the things that I said yes to when it comes to our clients, I mean, that's a whole nother podcast topic, but the things that I've said yes to and that I've done, just to not upset somebody, make somebody mad, it's insane. So and I'm still working through this. I have not mastered this in any way, especially when it comes to the employees, because I always wanted to be that boss I never had. I wanted to be there. When I first started off in business, I thought that I could be a friend to my employees, which I quickly learned is not a good way to be a leader and a boss at all. So I have changed that, but I do still feel like I have an issue where I make everybody else's feelings my problems, and I want to be, I want to be the boss that they like. And I still struggle with that a lot. So I'm learning and I am improving in this aspect, but I still have a long way to go.
What is some advice you can give to our listeners that helps you get through that feeling of it's okay to say no? Like, what are some things or thought processes you go through for yourself that's helped you gotten better at saying no?
I feel like it just comes down to practice. You have to force yourself to do it and get really comfortable with being uncomfortable. And the first few times you say no, you're like, oh, everything's fine. I didn't die. The world didn't explode. Everything's fine. And then you get really good at it. And there are things now, especially when it comes to our policies and procedures with clients, that I say no, or I set the rules from the get-go without even thinking twice, where 4 years ago, I would have never dreamed about putting these policies in place or saying no to the client. So I really think just the repetition and the practice is the best way to go about doing that.
That's awesome. For me, it was to start with just being conscious of it. Like just knowing that I say like yes to everything. And to start paying attention to what am I saying yes to? And so have just being conscious, say, do I say yes to everything or do I say no? And start tracking it. And the one statement that stuck with me for a long time was that every time I say yes to something, I'm saying no to something else. And what is that something else that I'm saying no to?
Ooh, that's good.
Yeah,
I never thought about
what is
that.
it? Is it your kids? Is it your husband? Is it your wife? That you're like, every time you say yes to something, you're saying no to something else. So what's that something else? Is it yourself? Is it self-care? Right? Is it your kid's soccer game? Is it dinner with your wife? Like I said, is it the business? Is it those to-dos we should be doing, but we're avoiding because we don't want to do them? That's what I found myself saying yes, because I'm like, oh, I don't want to do the non-fun stuff.
Yeah, I think tracking them is a really good idea. I've never thought about that.
Tracking them and just really being observant to What are you saying yes to and what are you saying no to? And are you saying yes to more things than you're saying no to? Now, there's a fine line because, when you're trying to make it in the world, you want to say yes to everything. We hear people say that, but you want to say yes to all the opportunities, not yes to everything. And that's a difference.
Yeah. And it's also, why are you saying yes? Are you saying yes because this is something that you want to do or that will level you up? Or are you saying yes because you feel bad for the other person that asked you?
Yeah. Or are you saying yes because you're a people pleaser?
And that's, I think, the big one for a lot of
That's
people
the big
across
one.
the board. Yeah.
That's where a lot of us struggle with. Yeah. So, reflecting on your journey in the last 6 years, what would you say that you could share with us that, through this whole, having a business with your best friend, being an owner cleaner in the field, because that sucks. I've done that.
Yeah.
What is some advice you could give our listeners that helps keep you motivated? Like during challenging times, how do you stay motivated?
I'm still trying to figure that one out myself, honestly, because I feel like I do go through lulls and I go through dips where I'm like, we got this, we're going to grow. And then I go through periods where it feels like, I keep saying to Holly, my business partner, it feels like we're trudging through quicksand to grow. It feels like we're pushing a boulder up a hill. So it's hard to keep that motivation. I feel like a good way to do so is tracking everything and going back and looking at your numbers and seeing, I feel like we're not growing as fast as I want to be. But then I go back and I look at our numbers and our snapshots and our bookings and leads from a year ago. And I'm like, wow, numbers don't lie. We really have grown. And, keeping track of all that really keeps me motivated to keep going. But also just leaning on people, leaning on your circle when you are feeling that way. You need to talk about it. If you're feeling unmotivated, you can't just stew in that alone. You need to talk to, your business partner. You need to talk to, I love to meet up with other cleaning business owners that are in my area and get together and really just say, hey man, I'm feeling stuck. Can you give me some advice? So I think that's really the biggest piece of advice I can give. Lean onto your circle and make sure that your circle is full of people that support you and want to see you grow and want to see you succeed.
Yes, I love that. I think for me, when I feel like a little discouraged or I always look at the consistency of, okay, maybe I don't feel like my numbers are any better, but like how consistent have we been with like releasing podcasts or releasing videos or making updates to softwares or, the consistency is what creates the momentum for growth. And I think with social media and just the access to everybody's information at our fingertips, it's so easy to get discouraged because you're like, why could they grow so fast? Why could they do so much? But we don't see like the 10 years of struggle before they achieve that. We don't see the 15 years of them making a video every day for 15 years. Like Mr. Beast is a great example. Like you do not see the consistency he had for years before he was famous.
Yeah, that's a great example.
And I think it's easy to get so like unmotivated and off track because we see growth in other people faster than we see it in ourselves. But just remember, like, you don't know what was behind those years of experience or consistency or the cadence of what they did to get there. Because I don't think anyone is a success overnight. I just think it looks like it, or we think it is.
Yeah, it's true. It's really easy to compare. And on social media, everyone's posting their highlight reels. They're not posting themselves, struggling out in the field, running to interviews in their sweatpants because they had to clean all day. Those things people are not showing you those behind the scenes stories on social media. You're only seeing the best of their life and the best of their growth and their business for the most part.
Absolutely. It's a highlight reel.
Yeah.
So knowing what you know now, what would you tell the younger version of yourself?
Like young or like first starting the business?
Anything. You can pick anything. What would you tell the younger version of yourself? Like what advice would you give yourself so that you could skip some mistakes or make it easier on yourself?
I would tell my younger self to just go for it. just go for it, just lean into it in all aspects. I mean, I feel like, growing up, you have this idea of what your life is going to look like and what you're going to do when you get older and, how your story is going to go. But I really believe the saying, man makes plans and God laughs. So I would tell my younger self just to, go for it in terms of the business, because like I said, I was very reluctant for a while. Even when my best friend said, let's start a business, I said no so many times before I said yes, when deep down I'm so happy now that I said yes. So don't let fear or misconceptions stand in your way, and just do it. Just do it.
What do you think was the switch that flipped on you just from saying no, no, no to yes?
Honestly, I feel like I just had enough of struggling, because like I said, I went to school for acting, which I knew going into it that there was like a -1% chance of making it. And I knew that going into it. So I knew the fear and the risk involved, but I was struggling day in, day out, going on audition after audition, getting rejection after rejection. And I had finally had enough of it. And I was doing survival jobs to make ends meet, like a waitress. I was a birthday party clown. I've done it all. And I finally had enough of struggling. And little did I know, of owning a business, there's a lot of struggle involved, but I just finally had enough of that struggle. So I said, okay, yes, let's just do it. And in my mind, it was going to be a little side hustle, like I said, and then word of mouth took off and it blew up. And again, I'm so thankful that it did. But I think I just had enough. I said, let's surrender and let's try this thing. Who knows?
Awesome. Love that fearlessness in you, by the way.
Thank you.
So for our listeners, do you have anything coming up next? Anything for our listeners to keep an eye out for? I know you have a podcast as well, right?
Yes, I do have a podcast with my business partner, Holly. We do everything together. It's called Hustled Up Podcast. And we just recently switched to video podcasting. So we'll be posting everything to YouTube and to Spotify and Apple Podcasts and all those things. So that's the big project for us right now.
Awesome. And we'll make sure that we put in the show notes links out to their podcast and your social media handles as well, in case any of our listeners want to get in touch with you. So I just want to thank you for being a guest on the Fearlessness Podcast. And for our listeners, if you want to find more episodes, you can visit thefearlessness.com, or you can also find them on my personal website, which is libbyd.com. And so guys, that's a wrap into the heart of fearlessness. Remember that every step we take is a move towards our own strengths and courage. Keep walking through those fires, because on the other side lies a version of yourself that's unstoppable. I'm Libby, reminding you to embrace your fearlessness. Until next time, stay brave, stay bold, and keep pushing forward.